YouTube isn't what it used to be. And there's no denying that YouTube has a ton of problems right now. But how did we get here? Well, it's more complicated than you think. In this video, I'm gonna rewind and dive deep into YouTube's history to break down its most defining problems. From financial instability,
YouTube was growing so quickly, I couldn't guarantee that the company was actually still going to be around in another 3 to 6 months. We were burning so much operational cost.
to endless lawsuits.
Will YouTube just face massive lawsuits and get sued out of existence? Who knows?
To one controversy after another.
YouTube doesn't actually care about its creators.
The golden age of YouTube is over.
All to understand why YouTube is the way it is today. I'm gonna discuss what we can do about these issues and address YouTube's biggest problem that nobody is talking about. You. When YouTube first started, the world was different. The iPhone didn't exist, Google looked like this, and watching videos online was complicated. Between slow download speeds, navigating clunky websites, and incompatible file types, watching and sharing videos online was a frustrating process. The world needed a better solution for online video, which former PayPal employees Steve Chen, Chad Hurley, and Javed Karim were looking to build with YouTube.
There was no good way to find or share videos.
We were taking photos and videos with our digital cameras, and the next day realized how difficult it was to share the video files because they were too large.
Many times, videos that were taken in a certain device would not work if you were playing it on a different device. You usually had to download additional software. You couldn't just watch anything inside the browser.
But believe it or not, YouTube actually started out as a dating site, where users could upload videos of themselves and rate each other's attractiveness. Though when it first launched and got no traction, the founders had to pivot.
The slogan was tune in, hook up, but it didn't work that well.
It was a total flop. We didn't get a single video uploaded.
And then we decided, let's just make it into a generic video site where you can upload anything.
Anyone could participate with any type of video. We weren't going to define the experience for them.
Eventually, word about YouTube began to spread across the internet. The embed feature made it easy to share videos anywhere, such as blogs, forums, and social platforms like MySpace. Every shared video served as free marketing, and soon enough, YouTube's popularity exploded.
The amount of traffic was doubling every week.
Every week there would be some crazy new, really interesting clip. Then it was like every 3 days, every 2 days, and of course, eventually, every day there would be some amazing new content.
By the end of the year, YouTube was serving over 2 million views a day. But as traffic to the site grew, so did the demand for technical resources. And in 2005, internet speeds were much slower and bandwidth was far more limited. So as YouTube consumed more and more resources, costs skyrocketed and supply started to run out, raising serious concerns about whether this growth was sustainable.
Before YouTube, nobody was pushing out this much amount of traffic. We were using up to something like 40% of the internet's bandwidth at that time.
We were on this mom and pop shop called Server Beach. We got some kind of deal where we got unlimited bandwidth.
We're going to offer you 2,000 gigabytes of data transfer for free, knowing that nobody possibly could use 2,000 gigabytes of data transfer on a single machine until we came along.
We were able to kind of milk that for a few months until we had basically used all of the data in their data centers.
We're going to max them out in no time, basically. The cost of this bandwidth is the building's on fire, basically.
We got close to probably about $1 million a month for bandwidth.
YouTube was growing so quickly, I couldn't guarantee that the company was actually still going to be around in another 3 to 6 months. We were burning so much capital, we were burning so much operational costs.
Within months, YouTube was now serving 100 million views per day, and over 65,000 videos were being uploaded daily. YouTube was pushing the absolute limits of what the internet could handle at the time. And if they didn't figure out how to manage costs and scale effectively, they risked going bankrupt or running out of resources to keep the site online. They needed a solution, and fast. They needed to build their own infrastructure.
One of the things I did when I first joined was to go and sign us up for our first data center so that we would operate our own infrastructure and be able to more closely control the costs.
We had to be buying up every one of the machines, these 42U racks, these 100-pound racks of machines. You had to be going into the trucks on Saturday, Sunday mornings to pull the machines out of the trucks. Power was an issue, just to power these huge racks of machines. And then you have to plug in everything yourself, including network cables, power cables.
It was a very difficult time to be able to scale out a service like YouTube as opposed to now.
We realized we were going to run out of web capacity in a few days. Our managed hosting provider couldn't keep up. Their equipment had effectively failed on us. And so what was supposed to be this nice gradual migration was the website is down, the database won't be fixed for days. We need to cut tonight to our equipment. The racks fully assembled weighed between 1,600 to 2,500 pounds. We all three pushed it up this ramp to get it to the data center hall. That night, it was bolted down, the network was set up, the systems were imaged, and everything was deployed, and so we actually made it through that night. If we hadn't opened it, I think the monthly fees from the hosting providers, they would have kept climbing, and we would have run out of money sooner.
By building their own infrastructure, YouTube was able to keep the business alive, but this wouldn't be the end of their problems. As YouTube continued to grow, they began showing ads on the site to help cover rising overhead costs. But at the time, many users were uploading content containing copyrighted material, and generating ad revenue from this content quickly landed YouTube in serious legal trouble.
Users started uploading videos that contained commercial music in all different ways. Videos of themselves singing songs or dancing to music playing in the background. The music companies and Hollywood had large anti-piracy teams that were sending us hundreds and in some cases thousands of copyright takedown notices a week. The biggest question for me was whether YouTube could build an advertising-based revenue model without becoming liable for all of the infringing content that users uploaded to the site.
This was a huge problem, and if YouTube didn't find a solution, they could have been sued out of existence. Fortunately, there's a law called the Digital Millennium Copyright Act, or the DMCA, that protects copyright holders while allowing online platforms like YouTube to operate. This law includes a rule called the Safe Harbor, which protects platforms from being held liable for copyright infringement if they can meet certain requirements. And if YouTube could build a system that would qualify them for this safe harbor, they'd be in the clear. But they didn't have that. So in the meantime, YouTube had to negotiate licensing deals with the record labels and media companies pursuing legal action. But this wasn't sustainable. YouTube couldn't afford to strike deals with every company whose content was being infringed upon, and not every company was willing to cooperate with YouTube.
Universal Music Group fully unleashed an orchestrated campaign of fear tactics on us. They put all of their senior heavy lawyers in a conference room. And as soon as the meeting began, they started waving a copy of a lawsuit complaint and demanding tons of money. I recall one exec with whom I had previously had a good relationship literally scream at me over the phone. YouTube was built on the backs of our artists and owes us hundreds of millions of dollars. Chad agreed to pay a big sum of money in exchange for a license agreement, a sum of money we had no way to pay at the time. And I was worried that other music companies would adopt the same tactics to try to extort crazy amounts of money from us. It would all come down to whether YouTube was eligible for this DMCA safe harbor.
Between negotiating these deals, scaling the platform, and building systems to qualify for the DMCA safe harbor, YouTube's team was being stretched thin. They needed help.
A decision had to be made within the board about what our next major step was going to be for YouTube and whether or not that was going to be through an acquisition or do we continue to operate as an independent company and try to figure all this out ourselves.
If we didn't sell the company, it would be very expensive and time-consuming for us to fight the copyright battles.
There was no way that we really could sustain things on our own between, the costs to grow, really the resources. We couldn't hire people fast enough.
We had one lawyer on the entire team. She was overworked with the amount of inquiries coming in.
We literally didn't really have any other options.
Is it time to sell the company in order for YouTube to really truly reach its potential?
Hi YouTube, this is Chad and Steve. We're the co-founders of the site, and we just want to say thank you. Today we have some exciting news for you. We've been acquired by Google.
Google's acquisition of YouTube was key to its survival. With Google's resources, YouTube created Content ID, a system that identifies copyrighted material in videos and gives rights holders control over how that content is managed. This system proved to be crucial as shortly after the acquisition, Viacom sued YouTube for copyright infringement, seeking over $1 billion. If Viacom had won this case, it would have opened the doors for all other media companies to sue YouTube for copyright damages. And it could have drastically reshaped the internet, creating a world where platforms like YouTube couldn't exist due to fears of legal consequences from users uploading copyrighted material. But Content ID helped YouTube qualify for the DMCA safe harbor, and they won the lawsuit.
This acquisition is really a match made in heaven.
I'm absolutely clear that we made the right decision to sell it with that amount of time at the time that we did and to sell it to Google. To put us in control, to trust a couple 28-year-olds to run this thing.
The first thing that Eric said to us after the acquisition was like, what do we need to do? What do we need to provide you? How do we support you that allows you guys to be successful?
That gave us a lot of confidence.
I just didn't want to see the opportunity disappear for millions of people around the world, not only share their experiences, but their talents with others.
There was a high risk that YouTube would have never made it out of 2006, 2007, if it weren't for that acquisition with Google.
About 4 years after Google acquired YouTube, co-founder Chad Hurley stepped down as CEO and was replaced by Salar Kemengar, a former Google executive who reportedly played a key role in the acquisition. During this time, YouTube's growth skyrocketed. By January 2012, YouTube was averaging 4 billion views a day, and 60 hours of video was being uploaded every minute. But there was a problem. With so much content being uploaded to the site, it became hard to find stuff to watch. And at the time, YouTube's algorithm relied heavily on view count to make recommendations. This was a problem for 2 reasons. First, this kind of system doesn't tailor the experience to the individual. Regardless of how many views they have, when your recommendations are full of videos you simply don't care about, it's hard to find something to watch next. As a result, people weren't spending a lot of time on the platform, averaging just 15 minutes a day in 2010. And because of this, ad revenue suffered. Less time spent on the site meant fewer ads seen, leading to smaller payouts for both YouTube and creators. The second reason why this system was problematic is it was very easy to game. People knew that just getting you to click increased the chances of their video being shown to others. And this is what gave birth to clickbait.
And so that's very attention-grabbing thumbnails. It's no regard for whether the content of the title and the thumbnail has any bearing on the content of the video. Clickbait is fine as long as you're actually giving me value once you've baited me into the click. But in that system, there was no incentive to deliver after the click.
People were using provocative thumbnails.
She always does her videos and got the arrow pointing at her boobs and stuff like that.
Sometimes just straight up lying. Anything to get your click. As a result, people's recommendations were being flooded with garbage. It was clear that the user experience was suffering and that change was needed. And in March 2012, change was delivered. YouTube updated their algorithm to prioritize watch time, citing this was a better measure of user satisfaction. This proved to be effective in increasing time spent on the site, with 6 billion hours of video watched each month in 2013, a 50% increase from 2012. It also discouraged clickbait and gave rise to other types of content, such as gaming.
Gavin, what did you do? Perfect! No! What just happened? How's it going, Russ? My name is PewDiePie.
But despite all its growth and the positive outcomes from this algorithm change, there were still reasons to believe YouTube was facing financial challenges. To give you a rough idea of just how challenging it is to run a business like YouTube, consider Facebook, a competing social media platform centered around user-generated content. In 2011, both YouTube and Facebook had about 800 million monthly users. Facebook's overhead costs for the year totaled $860 million. And while YouTube has never publicly shared their overhead costs, you have to keep in mind that YouTube primarily handles videos, rather than just the text and images that make up most Facebook posts. And video data is much more complex to store and serve through the internet.
Even when I upload content sometimes to YouTube, I still look at the size of the video that I'm uploading because I knew how much it cost to pay for that on my own credit card back then. There's always new codecs coming out in the video codecs, audio codecs, and so you always need to keep around the originals. That's a lot of storage costs, that's a lot of power costs, a lot of bandwidth. The way that Google handles it, every video had to be in 3 different locations as well, because just in case if there's an earthquake in one of the data centers and they didn't want to lose the originals, that's multiplied by 3 the cost of everything. It's probably in many, many more places now.
But let's just say that YouTube's overhead costs were roughly the same as Facebook's, about $860 million. YouTube's revenues for 2011 were projected at $1.3 billion. But when you consider that 55% of ad revenue from videos by creators in the YouTube Partner Program goes to those creators, and rights holders have to be paid for videos with copyrighted material, those profit margins begin to shrink. Also, around this time, it was reported that just 30% of videos accounted for 99% of views on the site. Just think about how many videos are out there that YouTube is paying for without earning anything in return. And when you combine this with a history of skepticism around being profitable, not being able to monetize the mobile app for the first 5 years of its existence, which by the time they could accounted for 25% of the site's total views, and a period where CPMs were declining, you could argue that YouTube had room for improvement. And to ensure the platform could be sustainable long-term, they needed to improve. They needed stronger monetization policies. They needed change. Enter Susan Wojcicki.
Good evening.
The new CEO of YouTube.
One of the most powerful women in tech. The 16th employee at Google.
Responsible for 87% of the company's $50 billion in revenue.
When Google bought YouTube in 2006, Susan was credited with convincing the founders to move forward with the acquisition. For over 14 years, she led the development of new revenue strategies at Google with a focus on ad products like AdSense. And over the next several years, under her leadership, YouTube would launch many new products and initiatives to strengthen the company's bottom line. In 2015, they launched YouTube Red, a subscription service that offered ad-free viewing and access to exclusive original content called YouTube Originals, which was later rebranded as YouTube Premium. In 2017, they launched another subscription service called YouTube TV, offering live and on-demand content like sports, news, and shows from major cable networks. They released a music service called YouTube Music, introduced Super Chat, a new feature for fan funding, and expanded the partner program to 85 countries, allowing creators all over the globe to get paid for their work. The results? Revenues were skyrocketing, and creators were earning more than ever. Partner revenue was growing at an annual rate of 60%, and in 2015, the number of channels making 6 figures grew by 50%. And during this time, we saw the rise of some of YouTube's most notable creators. It seemed like everything was trending upwards. Until...
YouTube is over!
What is that?
Hashtag YouTube is
What
over
is
party.
this?
YouTube's kicking people off the site, question mark?
My whole channel got demonetized. All my videos are getting demonetized.
Thousands of creators, including myself, get their income cut by more than half.
Videos that are considered not advertiser friendly.
There's no transparency on what that means.
They don't explain why.
They don't email you, they don't notify you, they don't talk to you. Nobody knows what the hell's going on.
Why is my income being affected even though I'm doing the same thing I've always done and I wasn't part of the problem to begin with?
Good creators who are doing good work ultimately suffer the consequences because of these few bad actors.
Thousands of local YouTube creators now lighter in the wallet. They are calling the new YouTube filtering system Adpocalypse.
In the years that followed, YouTube went through a period that became known as the Adpocalypse. During this time, several kinds of harmful content was being uploaded to the site, including hate speech, videos from terrorist organizations, and disturbing content targeted at children. At the time, advertisers had little control over where their ads were placed, and when they discovered that their ads were appearing alongside this content, a boycott ensued. Hundreds of advertisers took their ads off the site, causing creators to suffer massive drops in revenue.
My check each month would be a little over $275,000. There was this thing that happened, it was the Adpocalypse, and now my paycheck is under $2,000.
As a result, YouTube enforced stricter monetization policies to ensure this wouldn't happen again. However, creators quickly became outraged, claiming that the new policies were too harsh and vague, with content that used to be perfectly acceptable getting demonetized without explanation, causing many to accuse YouTube of censorship and corporate bias. While this was a very dark and controversial period for YouTube, I think it's worth trying to understand this situation from their point of view. YouTube is faced with this impossible problem, where on one hand you have the creators, who are creating content for the site and defining what YouTube is. On the other, you have the advertisers, who are funding the site, keeping it running, and allowing creators to get paid for their work, which is amazing. And in the middle, you have YouTube, who has to cater to the needs of both sides, because within this ecosystem, neither side can exist without the other. However, a decision made to meet the needs of one side can often have a negative impact on the other. But because the creators and advertisers are so disconnected from each other, all the blame from either side goes to YouTube.
In the very early days, we knew that for YouTube as a platform to be able to survive and grow, we needed to find a fair way to work with all the parties that are engaged on the platform. And that included the content creators, and then, of course, the advertisers and the marketers that are willing to be able to put their branding and pay for advertising on the platform. What is the way to make everybody happy in this picture?
Advertisers have always played a crucial role on YouTube. Now, despite their recent growth in revenue back then, some reports claimed they were still barely breaking even. And by now, you understand just how expensive it is to keep YouTube running, so of course they need to keep their advertisers happy. But I think there's a difference between YouTube making decisions to meet the needs of advertisers and YouTube making decisions to please as many potential advertisers as possible.
Over the years, we've seen many ways that our monetization program has not necessarily been ideal, but we didn't have any way to do anything about it. If advertisers don't want to be associated with a creator, then there's no monetization for that creator. So that's how we got into a situation with like swearing and profanity, and then it's like, okay, that leads to lower monetization, right? That wasn't necessarily YouTube. It's not like we made it that policy. That was because that's how advertisers wanted to be.
When looking at YouTube's decisions, it's easy to say they only care about money. It's easy to accuse YouTube of censorship and pushing away creators, but if these decisions were made with the intent of meeting the needs of a key part of their user base to ensure the platform can survive, is it really fair to label that as corporate greed? Now, the biggest issue that creators had with YouTube at this time was their lack of transparency. The new monetization policies were so broad that they could basically be used to demonetize anything that's not squeaky clean. And creators were receiving little to no feedback on why their videos got demonetized. As a result, creators were left in the dark and felt unequipped to adapt to the changes.
For us as YouTube creators, I think in general, we want to play by the rules. We just don't know what the rules are, and so it feels like we're operating in a black box, where that's where the paranoia comes in, that's where the conspiracy theories comes in, that's when people are like, oh, this video underperformed, it must be because of X, Y, and Z. How do you kind of like empower us with the knowledge that we need to best help you help us?
This is a complex problem because by keeping your policies broad, you prevent bad actors from creating harmful content, but you also risk hurting innocent creators in the process. However, while very specific policies may help creators produce more advertiser-friendly content, they could also allow bad actors to continue creating harmful content by sneaking around these guidelines. The adpocalypse demonstrated that a relatively small number of harmful videos risks ruining the experience for everyone. So given what's at stake, I can understand if YouTube felt like they couldn't afford to take that risk. Another big issue was YouTube's use of machine learning algorithms to automatically demonetize non-advertiser friendly videos. At the time, these algorithms were less advanced, leading to many videos being demonetized by mistake. And while YouTube lets you dispute a demonetized video by requesting a human review, this process is frustrating, and by the time your video becomes monetized, all the money you would have earned is already lost.
YouTube had demonetized a really innocuous video of mine. I appealed their decision to demonetize it, meaning that I was right, it shouldn't have been demonetized. And what do you know? Look at that. YouTube agreed with me and remonetized it. And because of that, because their algorithm made the wrong call, it cost me.
Also, these algorithms show noticeable biases, with many demonetized videos featuring LGBTQ+ content. YouTube admitted their algorithms were prone to making such mistakes, and some reports suggested that these algorithms were trained by people in regions of the world that could be less inclusive of LGBTQ+ rights. This resulted in outrage from creators in these communities, and even a lawsuit against YouTube. While this is of course not ideal, YouTube has to invest in algorithmic moderation systems because it is simply not feasible to have humans review every video on the site. And the reports I mentioned demonstrate how the discrimination from these algorithms likely reflects the biases of the people training them, rather than YouTube as a company intentionally trying to censor LGBTQ+ creators. Now look, I'm not saying that YouTube doesn't deserve any blame at all. For example, if monetizing tragedies is against your guidelines, it is unfair to make exceptions for certain individuals, even if they have their own ad sales teams that are okay with profiting from them. It's one thing to enforce new policies, and it's another to enforce them consistently. But my point in all of this is that this is not a one-sided debate. What if YouTube did nothing and advertisers never came back? Was YouTube at the mercy of advertisers who were leveraging this boycott to negotiate better ad rates? Is it fair to blame YouTube for making changes that impacted creators' livelihoods when those changes were made to restore the very source of revenue that they need to pay their bills, their staff, and us? I don't know. Fast forward to today, and it feels like there are more problems now than ever before. Within the last 5 years, we've witnessed some of the most controversial changes to the platform. In September 2020, YouTube launched Shorts. To compete with TikTok, YouTube introduced a new way to share short-form videos, which drastically changed how users engage with the platform. In November 2021, YouTube removed the public dislike count, citing that this change would protect creators from harassment through mass disliking. This was met with backlash from the entire community, and even prompted co-founder Jaedon to speak out. But perhaps YouTube's most controversial decision can be summed up by some of the most upvoted posts of all time on the YouTube subreddit. Many users feel overwhelmed by the sheer amount of ads on the platform. YouTube updated their terms of service to allow ads on videos from creators who aren't even in the partner program, and the video you're watching, when paused, is also fair game for ads. And in May of 2023, YouTube began experimenting with restricting ad blockers on the platform. Their efforts escalated quickly, starting with a simple closable pop-up, then disabling the video player entirely, and eventually testing embedding the ads into the video stream to make ad blocking impossible. Here's a question. Is YouTube profitable? The short answer, we don't know. YouTube has never publicly stated whether they are profitable, but there's plenty of reason to believe they aren't. As I mentioned earlier, high infrastructure costs and revenue sharing with creators and rights holders has led to a history of skepticism around YouTube's profitability, even at the peak of its growth before the adpocalypse.
When is YouTube going to be profitable?
Well, right now we're investing in the platform.
So it sounds like no time soon.
Well, right now we're in the investment mode.
Okay, but no timetable.
No timetable, no.
Okay.
But in 2025, with over 2.5 billion monthly users, over 500 hours of video uploaded every minute, and over 3 million creators in the partner program, those costs have likely skyrocketed.
I think, as we've talked to you about quite frequently, in our ad-supported business within YouTube, we do pay out a majority of revenues to all of our content creators. We pay all of the infrastructure and networking costs. That's, for storing, for serving video, otherwise for running YouTube, and that includes marketing, supporting content creators.
We also hit a new milestone with 3 million plus channels in our YouTube partner program. We recently shared that YPP has paid out more than any other creator monetization platform, including over $70 billion to creators, artists, and media companies over the last 3 years.
To put that into perspective, $70 billion over 3 years accounts for 80% of YouTube's total ad revenue in that period. And just look at some of YouTube's competitors. Twitch is not profitable. Twitter has struggled to be profitable. And Spotify has only just become profitable after 18 years. So maybe YouTube isn't profitable, and that's why they've been so aggressive with advertising. This is a tough issue because more ads hurt the user experience, but fewer ads make profitability harder. And at the end of the day, YouTube is a business that needs to earn money in order to survive. Would YouTube still exist today and be able to support all of its creators if it wasn't for efforts like this? YouTube's biggest problem has always been about how do you monetize. Their second biggest problem, how do you organize?
I still think there's a big opportunity within the world of discovery to organize or make sense of the amount of content that's there. There's already an enormous amount of video on YouTube, but there continues to be many more hours added every single day. So to somehow create a discovery experience that's more tailored to the individual is one thing I'd love to see happen.
Today, over 70% of views on YouTube is driven by the algorithm, which analyzes over 80 billion data points collected from your viewing habits to personalize video recommendations. But while this system does help users find things to watch, it also seems to have had an unintended side effect. Just like how people game the old YouTube algorithm with clickbait thumbnails, creators have found ways to game the system that exists today. From very sensational titles and thumbnails to highly attention-grabbing video structures, creators have found ways to maximize key metrics like click-through rate and retention to optimize their video's performance within the algorithm. And because these strategies work, we've seen a rise in content that all looks and feels the same. Also, it's created a culture where video performance has seemingly taken priority over video quality. Many creators have become obsessed with YouTube analytics, shifting focus from creating content that is truly fulfilling to them. As a result, many users have grown unhappy with the platform and feel like it's lost its original spirit of broadcasting yourself.
YouTube's changing. And it has changed.
The ecosystem that's on YouTube right now is so bland and boring to upload to. It's like you have to think of a title first and then think of a really slapping thumbnail that like clickbaits people into your video.
We can talk about the Mr. Beastification of YouTube all day long, where channel rips off channel who rips off another channel in the most brain-numbing way possible.
People used to have no idea what the hell they were doing on here. And now it's very different. People know what is good, what works, and they know how to become the most popular YouTuber, man. These analytics now are everywhere you look. Huge, affirming green arrows if you're getting attention, and fucking bright red down arrows if you're getting less.
YouTubers place so much importance on this metric, it consumes them.
One time, I watched the entire Mr. Beast crew, about 7 men, be really, sad because they had a 10 out of 10 in their dashboard. They had gotten only 50 million views in a day. Are you fucking kidding me? I do not love that the primary signal of success that YouTube chooses to acknowledge and push onto the creator, is popularity. The tough reality is, YouTube is a business. If you're a YouTuber, you're an employee, and they want you to make them money.
Look, I know that we are far from the days where you could just upload whatever you want and get noticed, but things were bound to change. There is so much content out there that we need an algorithm to help us find stuff to watch. And we've changed as well. I mean, we live in a world where unlimited entertainment rests at our fingertips. Our viewing habits have changed, our attention spans are shorter, so of course videos need to be more enticing and engaging. That's a byproduct of the environment we're living in. But look on the bright side, the algorithm forces people to make better content. Retention and click-through rate aren't just buzzwords that'll help your channel blow up. People are learning how to be better storytellers, which naturally keeps us watching. And there are creators making videos that actually are worth our time, so I'd hope they can make a great title and thumbnail to earn my click. And yes, I know there are many creators who are less artistic with it, relying more on flashy edits and constant stimulation. And you can argue that that content is bad, but maybe that's okay. Because as YouTube co-founder Jaedon Karim once said, not all user-generated content is good. The idea was never that all content is good. The idea was, however, that among the flood of content, there are great creations waiting to be exposed. Far too often, I feel like YouTube and the algorithm are used as punching bags for problems that stem from us. Is it the algorithm that's resistant to change and different types of content, or is that a reflection of consumer behavior? An algorithm is only as good as its input, and if that input is us, choosing to click on something that's more within our comfort zone, instead of giving something new a chance, then should we be blaming ourselves? YouTube provides creators with analytics to equip them with the tools to succeed, but is it their fault that we've chosen to obsess over them and let them dictate our lives? And it's the creator's decision to follow trends and be a slave to the algorithm. So is it really YouTube's fault that everything looks and feels the same? Or maybe there's just too much content out there and everything's already been done. That's why nothing feels new. My point in all of this entire video, is that the problem with YouTube is larger than just the actions of one company. This involves all of us too. Yes, YouTube's changed, but there are reasons for that. Valid reasons that are worth understanding. And now that you know all of these reasons, how do you feel about YouTube? Do you empathize with them at all? Are you more accepting of the way things are now? And would you ever make an entire video criticizing YouTube for their decisions and the current state of the platform? I don't know about you, but I would never do that. I mean, I would never. By this point, it was clear that YouTube was no longer just about broadcasting yourself. Now it's about gaming the system. It's about numbers, business, money. YouTube is like this game where if you want to win, then you have to play by this set of rules. YouTube has developed this culture where a lot of successful channels will make similar videos. You're living in a climate where you can't feel comfortable broadcasting yourself, because if you do, you might offend somebody. Look at someone like Jenna Marbles. PewDiePie has had his fair share of cancel culture related incidents. This is how the culture has changed. So if YouTube wants to remain the better platform for sharing videos, then they need to be better, because over the past 5 years or so, YouTube's changed. Oh my god, can you get a load of this guy? What? Do you even hear yourself? You sound so entitled when, to be honest, YouTube doesn't owe you anything. I'm sorry, do you even hear yourself? You're defending a multi-billion-dollar company that steals and sells your data, and you're whining that they struggle to turn a profit? Okay, and you're better off defending people like Jenna Marbles and PewDiePie? One did blackface and the other uses derogatory slurs. You're saying it's the platform's fault they got backlash? What? No! My point is that we live in an environment where saying or doing something slightly controversial that does not have to be as extreme as what they did can be completely blown out of proportion. And it's the fear that this instills in creators that holds them back. And fear is a killer of creativity. What are you, a poet, bro? That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. Yeah, well, what about you? You keep saying that YouTube has to make all these business decisions to keep the platform running, but at what point are their decisions just hurting creators and viewers, which in turn causes the business to suffer? What are you talking about? This is a site filled with user-generated content. YouTube profits off the fact that there are people out there creating the products for them. If you screw over those people and lose them, were those business decisions really justified? Oh, come on, bro. You don't seriously believe that, do you? Look at how many views Mr. Beast gets. The site is doing just fine. Oh yeah, sure. And all of his clones get tons of views too. That's all you gotta do nowadays, right? Is copy Mr. Beast and YouTube hands you a fat check? What's the point in having an algorithm to help me find things to watch when everything there is to watch is the same? You know that's a lie. The algorithm forces people to make better content, and just because you're too comfortable in your echo chamber doesn't mean there isn't great content out there to watch. Wow, okay. And let me guess. I bet you think that AI is gonna solve all our problems, huh? AI is the future, bro. What's wrong? You don't want to adapt again? This is YouTube, buddy. You said it yourself. You want to win? Then play the game. I'm done with you. Done with me? Yeah. Okay, bro. Because having a business to run is no excuse to play favorites. Oh, here you go. Or show ads that are scams or just inappropriate. Who do you think you are? Who do you think you are? You think this is all about you? You know nobody agrees with you, right? This is why people like you are the problem. They don't agree with you. Everything. He doesn't agree with you. Do have, and I still take it for granted. You made an entire video whining about defending YouTube side when you know you're wrong. Right, stop. We're not gonna get anywhere like this. Who the hell are you? Hi everyone. Look, I'm not asking you to agree with YouTube. I myself do not agree with many of the decisions they've made. But I think that as users of this platform, we should at least try to understand why YouTube makes these decisions. Because today, discussions about YouTube's decisions, problems, and future are often dominated by the viewer or creator's point of view, which, due to the nature of the internet, can lead to excessive criticism and negativity. And while engaging in these conversations may be tempting and the popular thing to do, they often lack hope, constructiveness, and usually only tell one side of the story. Now, I'm not saying that we shouldn't share our perspectives because they are important, but at the very least, trying to understand the other side can inform future criticisms and shift people's perspectives. And I think this matters because overly pessimistic mindsets, in my opinion, do not foster an environment where creators and viewers can thrive. In my last video, I leaned in this direction, critiquing YouTube from the user's perspective. And I think I did invite some pessimism in the comments. But that's not the kind of energy that I want to circulate the platform. Because as someone who grew up with YouTube, I don't want these frustrations to prevent audiences from enjoying what's out there and creators from doing what they love. I understand that now may feel like a difficult time to be both a creator and a viewer. If you're a creator, it may feel like you have to choose between making content that's meaningful to you and making content that the algorithm rewards. But know that creativity and business are not mutually exclusive, and adapting does not mean selling out. Choose to create content that you want to make, content that is truly fulfilling to you. And don't be afraid to embrace the business aspect of this craft. Understand that while it is important to make great art, it is just as important to ensure that your work is in the best position it can be in to reach and be appreciated by your intended audience. And I think there are great examples of top creators who do exactly this, making content that's true to who they are while still being strategic about things like titles and thumbnails.
There's two aspects to your content. There's the product and there's the performance. And a lot of really, creatively purist people can never accept that the performance of the content, and so therefore like the marketing, the title and the thumbnail, are important and potentially just as important or more important than the content itself.
So in the beginning, I would do 3 videos a month that I was like, I think these are gonna bang. And then the last one was like, this one's just fun for me. And what's funny is I got to this point where the ones just for me started performing better than the ones I thought were like automatic million view videos or whatever.
I've had some videos that I feel like I didn't try that hard on, but I was like trying to think of how to make them funny and creative. And they'd get more views than the videos I'm like doing crazy logistics for.
Right. And for viewers, I understand that it can feel like there's nothing new or exciting to watch. But there's over 20 billion videos on this website and 20 million more added every day. So chances are there is something for you to watch. You just have to find it. Choose to be intentional about how you engage with the platform. If you come across a video that's different from your usual recommendations, but seems like it could be interesting, consider giving it a chance. If your recommendations feel repetitive, try clearing your watch history, or even make a new account, because your current one probably has a ton of invisible metadata attached to it. If you do watch a video you like, consider actually clicking the like button, sharing it, or leaving a comment to help the algorithm understand what to recommend you next. And finally, make efforts to seek out new content by doing things like using hashtags to search within specific niches, or using the New to You button on your homepage to get different recommendations. Now look, I know that everything that I just said is by no means a comprehensive solution to all of YouTube's problems, but that's besides the point. I know that YouTube's changed in many ways that we don't like, and as much as there is for YouTube to do to improve the platform, that's out of our control. But what is in our control is how we choose to engage with the platform. We choose what we consume, we choose how we create, and we choose how we perceive these issues. It may not seem like our choices matter, especially next to a multi-billion-dollar corporation, but at the end of the day, the site is still called YouTube. So choose wisely, because I believe that any amount of change on this platform begins with us, and the future of YouTube is up to you.